What's up, squad? So we've heard it all before. Cut belly fat with these 3 amazing exercises and cut out carbs from your diet to lose weight rapidly. But how much is clever marketing and how much is actually true? Well, today we're going to debunk the top 5 health and fitness myths. Roll the intro. So, myth number 1, as I said in the intro, is that you can lose fat in specific areas. This is a myth. So this is something called spot fat reduction and has been going around for absolutely ages now. You might have seen certain exercises that say, target belly fat with these 3 exercises or target your love handles with these 3 exercises. And yes, you can target the muscles underneath the fat with specific exercises. However, you can't target the fat on top of the muscles themselves. So this is ultimately down to hormones and genetics. These decide where we store our fat and then also where it comes off of first as well. Gents will usually store fat around the stomach first, annoyingly, and then females will also usually store fat around the hip area first. And these are usually the typical areas in which the fat comes off last. So just as you can't decide where to store your fat, you can't decide where it comes off of. So for example, if I was to eat 8 cookies, which is a pretty likely occurrence, I couldn't decide to have that fat stored over my calf muscle. My hormones and genetics will decide where that fat gets stored, and then I cannot decide where that fat will come off of. Losing weight and losing fat over any area is about being in a slight calorie deficit for a long period of time. Your body will just then decide where to choose the fat from. But do not despair, you can obviously exercise certain areas of the body. So you can do exercises that target the obliques or love handles. You can target, the triceps or the bingo wings. However, you're just targeting the muscle. So when you come to lose that weight or fat over that specific muscle, there will actually be some muscle there and you'll look a little bit better. Myth number 2 is carbs will make you fat. Carbs are short for carbohydrates, obviously, and we've all heard it before, no carbs before marbs. So there are 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Obviously here we're talking about reducing carbs, and because they've been linked for a long time now with gaining weight, and fat has also been linked to gaining weight in the past. However, carbohydrates are our primary energy source, so this is primarily what our body runs on, and even if, for example, you're going to use some protein for energy, your body will convert it into carbohydrates. Your brain also primarily runs off carbohydrates. It's the only thing it can run off. So one of the reasons people cut out carbohydrates quite a lot is to go into something called ketosis, and this is a whole other video and probably something I'm not even qualified to talk about. But even if you do go into ketosis, once you start introducing carbohydrates back into your diet, you're just going to end up putting the weight back on because you've cut something out which you probably enjoyed beforehand. As I said, carbohydrates are our primary energy source, so therefore if you're trying to exercise on a really low carb diet, you're really going to struggle to exercise anywhere from sort of middle of the road to high intensity exercise. Any diet works just by cutting calories. That's how they all work. Reduce carbohydrates, reduce fats, whatever it may be, they're all simply just reducing calories. And by cutting out carbohydrates in particular, it just means, as we said before, you're just cutting out your primary energy source and probably just cutting out something that you really enjoy. I know I enjoy, as we saw before, cookies or chocolate or pizza occasionally. If you're cutting out carbohydrates, it just means that you're not going to be able to enjoy a diet as much. So if you could just rein that back a little bit and just reduce your calories in general, maybe just by decreasing your portion sizes a little bit, it means that you're still going to enjoy your diet while losing weight a little bit faster as well. Myth number 3 is that weight training will make women bulky. I forgot to film an intro, so have a voiceover instead. So to gain a large amount of muscle mass, especially as a female, females have generally lower levels of testosterone, increased levels of estrogen, so slightly tougher to build muscle as a female. You need a good couple of things. So you need a well-planned training program, resistance training program, and cardio will often actually decrease the amount of muscle mass you put on. You also need to be sleeping well, you need an adequate amount of protein, and then you also need to be in a calorie surplus for a long period of time as well. So unless you've got all of those things, then why even worry about putting on too much muscle? Another thing to note as well is that it does take years and years and years to put on a large amount of muscle, and that muscle will actually be spread all over the body, not in just specific areas. So you're never going to wake up one day and think, oh dear, I'm too big. And if you did, then there's a hell of a lot of people that will want that secret. So don't worry about weight training too much and bulking up too quickly, because it won't happen. All that will happen is that you'll be sort of pain-free, you'll be a little bit stronger, you'll look a little bit more aesthetic, you'll probably have lower levels of body fat, you'll be less likely to get injured, and you'll be a little bit stronger as well. What's not to like? On to myth number 4. So myth number 4 is that the more you sweat, the more calories you will burn. So I don't know if you've ever been in the gym and been smashing the treadmill or smashing the elliptical machine or the cross trainer and thinking, I'm sweating buckets here, I'm burning all the calories. Well, that's not necessarily true. There is some slight correlation to sweat and calories burnt, but not really too much. The only link is that if you're working harder for a longer period of time, you're probably going to sweat more. So the amount you actually sweat depends on a couple of different things, one of which is how hot it is, so the country temperature or how much clothing you're wearing. Number 2 is how fit you are, so the fitter you are, the more you'll sweat because your body can regulate your temperature better. And number 3 is actually your hydration as well, so the more hydrated you are and have enough water on board, the more you'll sweat too. If you're not hydrated enough, your body will be reluctant to get rid of that water and will force you to exercise at a little lower intensity. So the amount of calories you burn is all about the work done. So for example, if I was to run a 100-meter race or walk 100 meters, the work done is exactly the same. So no matter how much I sweat, on the walk, for example, I probably wouldn't sweat too much. On the 100-meter run, might sweat a little bit. So I might sweat a little bit more with the 100-meter run, but that doesn't mean I'll have burnt any more calories in the long run. It just means that I've done that 100 meters work in less time, so therefore created a little bit more heat. During exercise, you might lose a little bit of weight because of the water you've lost through your pores, through the sweat and salt. However, after exercise, once you take on a little bit of water, you'll just put that weight back on and that's completely fine. You've probably seen boxers trying to lose weight for an event wearing a bin bag or a foil suit. All they're trying to do is lose their water weight before the weigh-in. Once they've had the weigh-in, they'll replenish those water stores. So the water that they're losing or the weight that they're losing isn't necessarily body fat, it's just water which will get replenished after exercise once you rehydrate. Myth number 5 is that a quick stretch will loosen those tight muscles. This, along with my previous 4 points, is also a myth. So the research has shown that you need to hold a stretch for around 30 seconds to 2 minutes to have any benefits in the long run from it. If you don't hold the stretch for at least around 30 seconds, the muscle isn't relaxed enough to have any sort of benefit. I'm always a big advocate of doing something, so even if you are stretching for 15 seconds, for example, over a course of a week and say a year, it is going to have some benefit, so I'm not saying don't stretch for 15 seconds. If that's the only time you have and that's all you're able to do, then please do so. I'm just saying the optimal time to stretch is around 30 seconds to 2 minutes or even longer if you can. If you think about it in terms of how long you're still for throughout the course of a day, if we're working in an office, for example, and we're doing a 9 to 5 and we're sitting for 8 hours a day, or even longer if we get the bus to work or the car and then sit at home as well, doing a stretch for 15 seconds is hardly going to loosen those tight muscles that you've been using sat there for 8 hours. As well as lengthening those tight muscles, something you also need to take into account is strengthening the opposing muscles. So for example, if my chest is tight because I've been hunched over a desk all day, not only do I need to lengthen my chest muscles, but I also need to strengthen the muscles on my back. Because my chest has been rounded, the muscles on my back have also been lengthened and probably a little bit weak too. So strengthening the opposing muscles, pulling the shoulders back and down, and then stretching out the chest as well, will give you the best results. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that interesting and insightful. Let me know in the comments down below what myths you've heard of. I've only covered 5 today. I'm sure there's plenty out there that I haven't heard before as well. So let me know down below in the comments. Subscribe for a new video each week, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.